Today we want to learn the opinion of two of the, arguably the greatest poskim of this generation. First Rabbi Elyashiv, Zechron Livracha, and then Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. Okay? Mm-hmm. So, we have two tshuvas to get through. I'm going to have to try and go quickly. The first one is Kovetz tshuvas here in Even HaEzer Siman Ayin Ches. This is in Rabbi Elyashiv's.
In the package.
This is, obviously, This is Rabbi Elyashiv's tshuva. And it's a complicated case. It's a strange case, and I must admit I struggled with his style a little bit in terms of how he structures a teshuvah is fascinating to see. Mm-hmm. There were details in the case that only became clear quite far on into the teshuvah. So I'm not sure how this was compiled, but and then he goes kind of backwards and forwards. This seems to be his style, although his conclusion is clear. And I'll state that from the outset. In fact, we could kind of do it backwards. Turn over 2 pages to where it says on the top of the page, Ashrei Ha'ish. Turn over 2 pages. Yes, have you got it? It says on the top of the page, Ashrei Ha'ish. Have you got that? No, I can see the next page. Next one. There we go. Okay, look where I put the arrow. This is a sefer. It's a set of svarim, which is a compilation of Rabbi Elyashiv's psakim in all of Shulchan Aruch, different things, and so it's an anthology it's very short. So we'll see here. We're going to do it backwards. So first we will see what he paskened halacha l'maisa, and then we're going to go back and learn the tshuvas. Okay? So here we are in Ashrei Ha'ish in Even HaEzer Perek Chav Tes Seif Tes Vav. Get minisuim ezrachim. Our shaila, get from civil marriage. Nishal Rabbeinu. In Tzrichim get minisuim ezrachim. He was asked, Rabbi Elyashiv was asked, does one require a get? Dilechura loishayich b'hu achazoka dein odom meisa bilasi bilasnus. Lechura the chazoka vein odom meisa bilasi bilasnus doesn't apply. Given shekol chayehem be'issa, given that their entire marital union and status and relationship is based on isur. That was the question. V'heishiv dilechumra yesh litin get. There you got it, black on white, in short. We could all go home now, really, I suppose, but we need to do some learning. So l'chumra, this is how we paskin l'chumra to give a get. Ure'ei beha'ora tesvav. It says this is Eidus Reb Mordechai Gross b'kovetz tel talpiot tovshin nun tes. And he adds v'hoisif. So Rav Gross, in the name of Rabbi Elyashiv, we're in the bottom of the page, the Ha'ora Tesvav, yes? Mm-hmm. He says that's when there is reason to assume possibly that there were Eidei Yichud, and that's only when there were Eidim Ksherim. However, have a look in the Sefer Yoshiv Moshe, where he says, Omer Rabbeinu, She'im kalas is get yasu. If it's easy, if it ain't too difficult to do a get, do it. Otherwise, it's mutter below get, and it's a chumrah. In other words, it's a chumrah. Rabbeinu gam romaz shekola get to rak l'chumrah. So here we have first of all, a summary of Rabbi Elyashiv's view. Now we're going to learn the tshuva inside. Okay? Let's go. Kovetz tshuvas here, Siman Ayin Ches. Like I say, the case is somewhat complicated, and it comes out from within the tshuva. So I've highlighted the bits that I want to do with you. Sheila. What's the Sheila? Din udvarim mitzad habal neged psak hadin shel beis hadin sheishtoi shegirish yesh lo din kinesua loy shuv ukeishes ish gemura me'acha shehimshech lichyois ito. The story is as follows. There was a couple that got a get, and I'll give the game away because it only comes up later. On the way out of the Beis Din, as they passed, I'm not sure whether it was in Yerushalayim or wherever, I'm not sure, but as they passed the Moatzah Hadatit, the religious council of the Rabbanut, he turned to her and said, this is where they do Kiddushin. Where's that ring that you just took off? Because we just had a get. So she took the ring off, and he took it and gave it back to her and said to her, Hariyat Makudeshesli. They then lived together for a number of years, so much so that Aidim came to Beis Din, as we'll see, and the neighbors said, we didn't even know they got divorced. We didn't know anything had happened. Because although they had gone to Beis Din and got a get, but what is indisputable, and there was multiple accounts from witnesses, from Aidim, that they continued to live together. And to the extent that people, their neighbors, and didn't even know they'd got divorced. Plus, he gave her a ring for Kiddushin straight on, almost on the steps of the court as they left. So now he is. Now again. There's one line here. I'm really quite flummoxed by the way the tshuva was put out, because it seems there's another woman involved, but it's not clear. There's only like one line in the tshuva, and the question is as follows. The question is as follows. So he is arguing against the psak din of the Beis Din, and he says we are married, and Rabbi Elyashiv now needs to make sense of this whole mess. So let's follow with me. We're going to go quite quickly because I also want to finish today, if possible, the next tshuva, which is a tshuva from Rabbi Shlomo Zalman, okay, who he addresses Rav Henkin directly. It's written to Rav Henkin, and with this, hopefully, we finish the sugya and we move on to the rest. Go back to Simon Chavav. Mitoich hanidon yotze. Follow with me. Mitoich hanidon yotze. Shekol ha'edim, all of the edim, asher hifiu bebeis din, v'heidu shatzdodim chayim kezug nasui. All of the edim that came to Beis Din testified, this is, as far as we know, they're living together as man and wife. Hoisifu, the edim added, ki kol hazman lo yodu klal shem megurashim. We had no clue. You're telling me they went to the Beis Din, they got a get? We had no idea. The first time they heard about this was from the witness of the woman when they were asked to hand over, when the woman had witnesses that she wanted to testify in Beis Din that there was gerushin. The other Eidim said, wow, weird, we never knew this. Gamo isha omra bebeis hadin, and the woman also said in Beis Din on Zayin Teves 1965, hashchenim v'chaverim lo yodu shesidarnu gerushin. Nobody knew. It was a state secret. Nobody knew we made gerushin. Now, Rabbi Elyashiv now brings in a fascinating machlokas, which is good for you to know. V'imkei, yesh lodun l'chur al pi mashakosov b'shut Beis Ephraim. Beis Ephraim is one of the very choshev achronim, the poskim, and he says as follows in Evanezer Simon Samachalef. There is a Gemara in Kiddushin that discusses 3 cases of Kiddushin that doesn't work. Let's take one of those cases. The easiest one is Mekadesh B'Pochos Mishava Pruta. A person is Mekadesh, a woman, with less than Shava Pruta. Does it work? No, it does not. Okay? But he then goes and lives with her. So he did Kiddushin, which didn't work, but apparently neither him nor her knew that, and then went to live with her. What's the shaila? Let's have a look. Says the Beis Ephraim Moiridik. No v'lache bedin mekadosh b'pochos mishava pruta oy b'milva d'amrinon behu k'shabal achakach eino sebilas nusu b'elish kiddushin. We say that somebody is not going to be b'ayel l'shem znus, he'll be b'ayel l'shem kiddushin. V'hai nu k'shi yichidim abifnei edim amrin hein edei yichud. When there are indeed edei yichud, we apply the rule hein edei yichud hein edei bia. V'ha'echadin asks the Beis Ephraim, what's the halacha? Im hani edei yichud lo yodu. These Eidim thought there was a good chuppah v'kiddushin, and we are Eidim on the yichud afterwards. But they didn't think that the yichud afterwards was for the purposes of kiddushin. They thought the kiddushin's already been done under the chuppah. Little did they know that there wasn't a valid kiddushin. The Eidim did not know, and potentially the husband and wife also didn't know. Potentially, let's see. So what's the halacha? The imkein Eidei. These Eidim were not aware that he was mekadosh with less than a shava pruta. They think they think that they're already properly married. It is true that these Eidim are Eidei Bia. But the Eidim have no hava amina. Doesn't occur to them that this fellow is going to be Baal Hashem Kiddushin. In other words, they don't know what they're witnessing. Even if the husband and wife would be Bayal L'Shem Kiddushin, but the Eidim do not actually know what they are witnessing. They know that they are witnessing, by being outside the room, that they're witnessing a Bia, but they don't know that it's a Bia L'Shem Kiddushin. They think it's not a Bia L'Shem Kiddushin, because as far as they know, the Kiddushin was done already under the chuppah. So this is a shaila on the Eidos. Does it work?
But they're witnessing a Bia between each, like man and wife. No, that's what
correct. But that's not... it is between man and wife. But they thought it's between man and already his wife.
Right,
they did not know that. This is exactly the shaila.
It's not znut, but it's like not kiddushin.
They can't testify.
So rega. Sorry. Gabby's making a good point.
It's neither or.
Oh, it's a very good Gabby. Well spotted. Good point. We have always been dealing with this, the edus on the bia, as a binary issue. It's either edus l'shem kiddushin, or, well, you can't have edus l'shem znus. You don't need edus on znus. Znus doesn't need edus. In fact, probably shouldn't have anything. But what Gabby's raising now is that there is actually now a third. Yes, they are living together, they're being intimate together as man and wife, but not for the purposes of creating issues. And this is the base of Ephraim's shaila. Perhaps the concept of Heinen Eidei Yichud, Heinen Eidei Bia is when there is edus for the purposes of creating kiddushin. Maybe. That's the shaila. What were you going to say, Sami?
Yeah, so that's what I wanted to say, that they can't testify it's for kiddushin.
Correct. Because
they think it's already done.
Correct. That's exactly his point. So let's see where he goes with this. Mikol mokim lo aski adatayu, does not enter their mind. Sheboy lo sel shem kiddushin. Shehem svorim shem kudeshes ilo kvar. They think she's already married. Ukmoy shebe kiddushay kesef, says the Beis Ephraim. Just like with kiddushay kesef, we tzrichin sheyiru ha'edim sheyedu shezeh hanesina hu noisela atol shem kiddushin. Just as under the chuppah, when edim stand there, they have to know what they're doing. They are witnessing a man giving a woman a shova pruta for the purposes of kiddushin, and they're made not just on the act, they're made on the context of the act. That this is happening l'shem kiddushin. That's why they have to hear and see the man say Harayat Mekudeshes li b'tabazu. Otherwise, it's just a man giving a woman a ring. They've got to know what it is that they're doing. They've got to know that the Baal and the Isha are doing this l'shem kiddushin, and that is what they're being made on. K'moikin tzrichen ha'edim ladas k'shenisiachtu shahayichud hu bia shehi bia hi l'kiddushin. Aval b'hanach gavni, but in these cases sha'edim are yisurim shem mekudeshes hi kvar. But in a case where the edim thought that they were already married, like aski adat hayushiva l'shem kiddushin. So it didn't occur to the edim. Never mind. He doesn't even go to the Beis Ephraim. Doesn't even go to discuss what happens in the mind of the man and the woman, because it's irrelevant, because there's no edus here. He's saying. But nidun hanal sha'edim o yisurin shel kvan iskadshu loy askan atay klal debi zol shem kiddushin nira lefines daiti deloy mahani, says the paskins of Beis Ephraim. There is no edus, right? Very important. The Dr. Rebbe Eliashiv umeyato benidun didon bizman shero edim shatstodim nimtzon beveis echad velonim bechedel chut. What are the neighbors? Whether it's the neighbors, whether it's edim, when they see these two people living together, Loy ola al datam klal, it didn't occur to them that they are living together for the purposes of kiddushin, because as far as they know, they're already married. They didn't know about this gerushin, remember. And since it's not possible for the kiddushin to work, you see, there's also, remember we discussed this, the man and woman also have to know that there are edim there. They need to be aware of each other. And the man and woman do not know that there's any edim on this, because there's nothing to be edim on. The man and woman need to know that there are edim that see the Maisa Kiddushin. And this is not true in our case. Even if, let's say, the man and woman knew that they were edim, but they also know that the edim don't know what they're witnessing. They don't know what they're seeing. Point number one. So that's the Beis Ephraim. However, he says, it could be here, it's a little bit different, next paragraph, he said it could be here, it's a bit different because here, she does have a way of independently demonstrating that she has a get. And even Zois V'oid, go to the fourth line, Zois V'oid, My dipshitele lebeis Ephraim lahachgisa. That which is obvious to the Beis Ephraim lahachgisa. In this way, to point in this direction. Pshitele lahamakne leidoch gisa. It is obvious to the hamakne, the Sefer Hamakne, very important, one of the Achronim on the Haflah, the Baal Haflah, wrote a Sefer on Kiddushin, he wrote Haflah on Ksubas, and Hamakne on Kiddushin, very important Achron Sefer, right, big Pesach, and he writes the opposite. Let's see, remember the story from the Mishnah in Gittin Daf Pevav, the woman who goes and stays overnight with her husband who she's just divorced, Pundaki in an inn. Says the Makna, none of the poskim mentioned that we require that the edim of a yichud yedu shehima gureshes me'isha zeh. Doesn't say anywhere that the edim that witnessing have to know this is a couple that have just come out of Beis Din, because remember it only works with, when we say this chazaka, especially according to the Rambam, it only works in a scenario where chazaka is when they've been to Beis Din, they got divorced, on the way out, on the way home, they lived together as man and wife in a hotel. There we say, what's the guy doing? Obviously he's being Mekadesher again, but Edim. Nobody suggests, says the Hamakna, that there is a requirement that the Edim who see this couple going into the hotel room need to know this is a couple that 2 hours earlier were in the Beis Din getting a get. So in other words, he's saying, this which the Beis Ephraim saw as necessary, that the Edim need to understand what it is they're witnessing, says the Hamakna, not true. Loi his kirushim echad me'aposkim debainu she'edei hayichud yedu shehi megureshes me'al-ish hazeh shenisyachtimo afilu hachi amri. Now, nevertheless, we say the kivin shanu yodim shenisyachtimo b'fnei edim. There was a yichud in front of Edim, and we know that they were megureshes. We say mistama they had kavanah for kiddushin, and the Edim don't need to know that. So says the Rebbe Elyashiv, machlokes, not so simple. So maybe it is good enough. Then he goes to an interesting sidebar. Even though the husband, he says in the next paragraph, the husband would put the light on Shabbos, but she still kept Taras HaMishpacha. So he ain't no saint, there's no question. The guy's not a tzaddik, but she was Shemer on Taras HaMishpacha, and he quotes the Radach, who says, Chazaka, when we say chazaka, that a good Jew won't make bila b'laznus, we don't mean a yid that goes to mikveh every morning and learns all day. No, as long as we know they're not porets in this area in Aroyos, even though they might be porets but averos acheros. Therefore, maybe, says Rabbi Elyashiv, we need to be concerned in this case that actually post the get, she now is actually married again. Maybe. Va'akati yeshlodon, over the page. And then he tells us a bit more of the story, which I already told you. Va'akati yeshlodon benidon didon shah isha betani sebe Beis Din Amra. The woman says in Beis Din, achashe yotzonu be Beis Hadin, after on our way out of the Beis Din achari gerushin, hu nosan li tabas l'shem kiddushin. He gave me a ring for the sake of kiddushin. Lo hoyu edim, there were no edim there. V'chazra al dvareha b'yeshivas Beis Hadin zayin tevis toshin chav. Zion, and she repeated her words in Beis Din again, and she said as follows: after the get, we went down the steps of the Beis Din, and when we passed by the Moatza Hadatit, the religious council, the building of religious council, Omarli, the guy said to me, "Kan mesadri misachatunot." You know, this is here where they get married. V'azhu hechzir li'asatabas, and then he gave me back the ring, shahiradati, which I took off at the moment of taking the get. V'som, and he put it on my finger. V'som li ala etzma v'omali hariyat mekudeshes li. What a crazy story, hey? Weird. Who knows? Loi zocheret yoter. She says, I don't remember anymore, but that I remember. Over Shamanoshim, she says, yeah, there were people passing by. I don't know who they were. I don't know if they heard. I don't know who they were. And after the get, halachnu yachad habaita, as one does, with a ring newly on her finger. And they go back home, so much so that everybody else, nobody even knew that they'd been to Beis Din to get a get. And everybody was shocked when X years later there's a whole din devarim. Were they divorced? Are they married or not? Okay. So the halacha now. So there's a bunch of other considerations which I don't want to go into. It's going to take too long. Maybe we should go to the following. Go down to the next, after those 3 stars, Uba Evana Eza, 3 lines in. Uba Evana Eza Simalamad Aleph Sif Tes. Something we will be learning, right? The Shulchan Aruch Paskins in Evana Eza Simalamad Aleph. Im Kidsha B'Pochas Mishava Pruta. If a man marries a woman, gives a kiddushin with less than a Shava Pruta, V'achakach Bo'oleho Stam Bifnei Eidim, and then is intimate with her in front of Eidim, Tzricha get, she needs a get. Shevadai boa l'shem kiddushin, because then he definitely would have done the bia l'shem kiddushin, right? However, he says it's not so simple. Ayin sham b'chelkas mechoykek. Remember, there are 2 primary mefarshim on the side of the Even Ezer. By the way, do you still want me to order you one?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Okay, because I'm going to make a layman's order this week or next week. So the Chelkas Mechoykek says, Dezuhi l'das ha-Rambam, according to the Maggid Mishnah, Aval l'das ha-Ran, it's only a Sophic Kiddushin. Scenario, a man is Mekadosh a woman less than a Shava Pruta, and then is intimate with her, with Eidei Yichud. Is it Kiddushin or not? Do we say Chazaka that he's Boil L'Shem Kiddushin? Does it work? So the Shulchan Aruch paskins that you need a get, because Vadai Boil L'Shem Kiddushin. The Chelkas Mechoykek says, this is the Rambam's opinion, but the Ran says it's only a Sophic. And according to the Kesef Mishnah, the Rambam also says it's a Sophic. Says Umasik Habash, the Beis Shmuel, the other main commentator on the page, and he paskins as follows. Aval Ikanira Bishloshtam. The main halacha seems to be in these 3 cases. We're only going to focus on one of them. Kiddush al Tanai, Kiddush Pachas Mishava Pruta, Kiddush B'Milva, Tzricha Get L'Chumra. In other words, it's a Chumra. V'hatamhu, and the reason is, de'ika inshi, there are people, de'to'i baha, they make a mistake. There are people in the world that are unlearned. Can you believe that? V'choshev da'ha mekadosh b'mil v'hu mekudeshes. There are people who think that if you can be mekadosh with less than a shava pruta. They don't know that. V'halacha p'suk of Evana Ezer simen tez vav. There's a halacha p'suk in Evana Ezer. Im yesh edim she'amra ha'isha. If there are edim that a woman says, kidshani b'fnei shnei edim, nesra lakroivim. If a woman says, that I was given kiddushin in front of 2 eidim, she becomes asa. But if she said he was mekadosh me, but she didn't say bifnei eidim, then her words don't mean anything. So let's go on. Says go down. We can miss out the trumas. We can miss out the trumas hadeshen. Ume'ata. Go to ume'ata. Ume'ata b'nidin didot. Sheho isha te'enes habal kiddush acharei get al yidei zeh shenosan lo v'omar lo v'ekim tanazu lefi data ishtehi v'loi ba'alo. And therefore the woman's on her basis, she's coming and saying, he gave me the ring on the steps. Gam kashoy b'nechach chesedim. So even if it wasn't in front of Eidim, miss out these brackets. Yoitze shehu moide bazeh shaloi hoisa kol kavana loy lav loy lekancho b'biyah. So therefore, even according to her words, when her ex-husband, was intimate with her for the months and years afterwards, after that incident, what is she saying? The whole thing is on the basis of what she said, that he gave her the ring. He didn't say that. She is saying that. So what are we saying? It says in Shulchan Aruch that if a woman says he was mekadosh me, maybe that's good. Yeah, but she's saying there were no Eidim there outside this. She's out on the steps outside the thing, which is the kiddushin, which is what he had in mind for kiddushin. According to her, there were no Eidim. What are you going to say? They were intimate afterwards. But he definitely didn't have kavanah for kiddushin then. Why? Because he thought it was the giving of the ring, which actually didn't work. So there's no bia l'shem kiddushin either. See? Rabbi Yashar's worked it all out. And when one of them say that it wasn't l'shem kiddushin, you only need one partner. You only need one partner to say that it wasn't l'shem kiddushin. Game over. That it's not kiddushin. And given that the only problem that we have is from her edus, she said he gave me a ring. He was mekadosh me. He doesn't agree to that. He argues with her. But so it's all on the basis of her words. Well, what are her words? Let's examine her words. Her words are, he gave me a ring. In other words, he thought that was kiddushin then. It wasn't really, because there were no eidim. Which means even according to her words, when they continued to live together, his kavanah was not for kiddushin. So definitely there's no kiddushin. Says Rabbi Yashiv, nothing doing. Nothing doing. He brings another radach, which is, we're going to miss it out, which is only because I'm a bit rushed for time, and I want to move on to one last point in this tshuva. Go to the very last paragraph of this tshuva, the ayin, and this is important for your general knowledge. The Beis Ephraim brings a tshuva from the Shagas Arya, which, as far as I'm aware, we don't have in the tshuva of the Shagas Arya. You got that? The ayin tshuva Shagas Arya, top left-hand column. It's the last paragraph in this tshuva. The ayin tshuva Shagas Arya huva b'shuk Beis Ephraim. The Gadol Ador, the Shagas Arya, paskins as follows. Listen to this. This is new. Yesh l'tzadeit. V'nidin shalonu k'tzas leheta mitzad hasvar d'chol chazaka shamar b'gmar d'novoisi bilasa bilazanus uvada l'shem kedushin boal. Says the Shagas Arya, when do we apply this chazaka? That a person is boya l'shem kedushin and not l'shem znus. Einoi ela b'doiros harishonim. Harishonos. Shahayu darkom l'kadesh b'biyah. This was in a time and a place and a context when it was done. Kiddushin b'biyah was done at some point in history. And then we say, V'iyah shel kiddushay biyah el al yidei yichud. V'din hayodin ze barur lakoil. There was a time, there was a place when kiddushay biyah were a thing. And therefore, Eidim knew that what they are witnessing very likely might be Eidei Kiddushin. They knew that. Everybody knew about this. Avol bizmaneinu ubimedinos halalu, says the Shagas Arya. She'ein darkom lekadosh b'biyah. If you go and ask the average Amoretz Jew in the street and say, did you know how do Jews get married? Or even if you ask a Jew, a secular Jew, or a Jew who really never learn the Mishnahs and Kedushin, how do Jews get married? We go to a chuppah and we do a ring. And did you know you could also do it through intercourse? What? They probably would be quite surprised. And bismaneinu b'mdina say that we don't do it b'kiddushay biyah. Ein din ze yodua ela l'chachomim habekiyim behilchas kiddushin. Only chachomim, Rabbeinu seminar students, they know about this thing. Avol lezeh shehoya rach bashonim, the case of the Shagas Arya, somebody who was very young. V'hadav korav loy meshaloi hoya yodea uboki behilchas kiddushin, and it's reasonable to assume that he did not know hilchas kiddushin. So to say when he did biyah, he had in mind l'shem kiddushin. Sofet Godoil im Abal Denan Oila Bidi Yosef B'Shetach Ze Ala Rach Bashonim Shebetshuvas HaShagas Arya. Therefore, this is also a very important idea. Paskins Rabbi Yashiv Mikol Halein Tami. Final decision. Out of all of these reasons, Nira She'ein Lanu Ela Likveh She'ein Ben Atstadim Ela Sofik Kiddushin Bilvad. The maximum we can say is that there is Sofik Kiddushin. Okay?
Yeah.
Last, let's do 10 minutes, let's do the tshuva of Rabbi Shlomo Zalman, and then we'll finish this sugya. And we're going to go back after Shavuos. Do we have Shir on Monday, or is it bank holiday?
It's bank holiday, but not Ravina seminar.
Oh, so we are learning on Monday. Awesome! Good stuff. I'm really happy. This is a tshuva from Rabbi Shlomo Zalman, Minchas Shlomo. I think it's Chelik Gimel. It's Simon Kuf. And he writes this tshuva to Rav Henkin. Okay, this tshuva is written, look at the bottom here. Mitech Michtav, it's a letter he wrote to Rav Henkin. And let's run through bits of it. Kosav Mar. Minchas Shlomo. Last page in your bundle. Yeah? Says Rav Shlomo Zalman, you, sir, have written. You wrote that, you see from the Gemara in Ksubas, you don't need the Yichud of Eidim. Lo yodati, ech kosav kein b'pshitos. I don't know how you could have written this as if it's obvious. Pligabar Rav Avosoi, it's a machloikas, the Shittim Kubetzes B'Shem, the Rivosh, and the Rosh, and the Meiri, and others that you do need Eidei Kiddushin. You do need Eidei Yichud. And the Rivosh is Machri and Simon Vav that you need the Eidei Yichud, and he writes about the Ra'ah, that it's a Das Yochid. Have a look in the Bash, Misha Kiddush Isha Pachs Mishava Pruta, and then the case we just saw, right? We actually just saw Rabbi Yashiv quoted this Beis Shmuel. A woman who was, a man was Mekadosh with Pachas Mishava Pruta, and then was living with her. Because there was no Shava Pruta, he's mesupik whether we say that it's like Eidei Yichud. Have a look in the Noida Yehuda, who says even if we know that he was definitely living with her, Lav Klumhu, because Kiddushin needs Eidus B'Sha'as Kiddushin. Very important Noida Yehuda. The Eidus has to be valid at the moment. They've got to know what they're seeing. Umishum Kach Gam Etma Eich Soiver. And then Rav Henkin wrote a svara. One of his svaras was, given that a husband and wife live together for 30 days, it's obvious that it's l'shem kiddushin. Says Rabbi Shlomo Zalman, what's 30 days got to do with anything? You see from the Noida Yehuda, and certainly from the Rivosh, that you need to know what you're witnessing at the time that you are witnessing it. There's no such thing as a range of days. Where on earth do you get this from? V'chein mashakosov. And furthermore, that which you wrote, that he's quoting Rav Henkin back to himself. Rav Henkin, remember we said, is of the opinion that this chazaka applies even to an intimacy which is itself forbidden. And you repeat this mantra many times. This is not clear at all, and you're going to have to bring me a proof. The onus is on you to bring me a raya, especially as, number one, the Ran doesn't agree with you. Number two, the Rambam writes you see that next 2 lines base? The Rambam says this is somebody who's Mekadesh with Pachos Mishava Pruta, and then he has Bia Bifnei Edim. Then we say Chazaka, Ein Odom Yisrael, Haksherim, Oisa Bilasa Bilazanos. Harei Mefurish. Look at the Lashon of the Rambam. The Rambam says, B'ksherim. Klal Yisrael who are Ksherim, we say Chazaka, Ein Odom Yisrael, Bilasa Bilazanos. Ve'im Kain. V'loi Berashom Aprutzim. Ve'im Kain Ba'ovrei Das. But therefore, those people that go against Halacha, Asher b'moal u'bezodoin ein noisim kedas Moshe v'Yisrael. People who don't go to a shul to get married by a Rav kedas Moshe v'Yisrael, and therefore neshesein nidos gemuros vadai dechlal lav bichlal ksherim ninu. You definitely cannot count them as being ksherim. Ve'eni yodeya. Now, Rav Henkin wanted to say, oh, the Rivosh was talking about a church. But civil marriage, that's a different story. Remember, that was his whole thing. Says Rav Shlomo Zalman, he doesn't accept it at all. Eineni yodea shum chiluk bein nisuim ezrachim lenisuim b'fnei komer. The mevusham b'rivosh, that we do not take into account leichashin and klal mashem dorim achkad be'ish ve'isha, the fact that they live together as man and wife. We don't, even in front of Edim Ksherim, we don't take that on board at all. Umashakos kvei terosai de'en lecha ela boich ela chidushai. You, Rav Henkin, want to say that the Rivosh is only contained and limited to the area where he says his chiddush with mumrim. Hama'ain sham b'Rivosh yira delay over the page. It's loizehu atam. This is not the reason at all. And everything the Rivosh writes, says Rav Shlomo Zalman, applies equally to civil marriage. Number 3, the Truas Maimoni says that's only when we know that the person that was Mekadesh B'Shpachos Mishava Pruta, then we say afterwards he was Mekadesh L'Shem Kiddushin. But if he thought it was good, like we saw before in Rabbi Yashiv, if the fellow who was doing the Kiddushin thought it was good, then we don't say that he's L'Shem Kiddushin Baal, and that we saw in the Ramon Simon Lamed. For all these reasons, they should have got married B'Chuba Kiddushin, and nevertheless they went Afal Pikenim Holchem Larkois, K'moi She'einam Chosheshim V'Noisnim El Libam Lachshev B'Zeh She'einam Mekudeshes Lo Lefi Das Noitzrim Vayishmaelim. Just as in the same way, go and ask. Rav Shlomo Zalman says a fascinating svara. Go and ask this young couple and say to them, tell me, do you think, you who went to get married civilly, do you think the Islamic Sharia courts or the church would recognize your marriage? They would say, no, of course not, because we didn't get married by an imam, and we didn't get married in a church. So why would they think that it should be recognized by halacha? Therefore, he says, Rav Shlomo Zalman is very sensitive. He says, we're very sorry, but like ichbus lehu klal, it doesn't. It clearly, this couple, it's not on their radar that they should be married according to Torah Kedosha, and therefore to say that it's considered married al pi Torah, no way. Ubechol pam sheba aleha. And whenever he is with her, whenever this man is with his wife, he is relying on what? If you would stop him and ask him, on what basis are you being intimate with this woman? He would say, I'm married to her because I went to a registry office a year ago. And therefore, what are you going to tell me now? He has das for Kiddushin? No way. He doesn't have any das of Kiddushin at all. And therefore, even if we would think to ourselves, maybe he had one night he had a Hirut Shuva, maybe, which is possible. And therefore he had das to be Mekadesha, even though he's Benida, Belishum Bracha, but the Chazaka, there's definitely no Chazaka. And therefore, even if he had Kavana, then it's like Mekadesh B'loi Eidim. And if you know that if the Eidim themselves are not sure what they're witnessing, that also doesn't work. He's quoting the Beis Ephraim without saying so. Bottom line, I'm going to the end. That this Poiruk El he had the option to marry Chuppah Kiddushin, he chose not to, and he lives with her Benidus. Of course not. And therefore, that, my friends, is the end of that. It is very clear the consensus of the poskim And let's just summarize with this, and from next week, we will, tomorrow, one second, we'll shoot tomorrow. No? Why not shoot tomorrow? Oh, we can't learn Erev Kabbalah Satira. Okay. Sorry, I didn't know. Okay, I'm up, I'm game. But if there's no Rabbeinu Sam, there's no Rabbeinu Sam. Okay, so to summarize, we have seen the Rogatchover, Rav Henkin, and the Chazon Ish as being quoted as saying that Me'ika Hadin, Nisum Ezrachim require a get. The consensus of the poskim from Reb Chaim Moser all the way down is that we need to get l'chumrah. We require and we ask for a get l'chumrah, but if there is any difficulty, the husband isn't available and it's not going to work, whatever, then she is able to get married again without this get l'chumrah. Okay? Our next thing we will move on to through Simon Chav.